What's up, everybody? Thank you all for joining us this Saturday evening for Irregular Republic, episode 6. Tonight I got Brad, and we are going to talk about how to protect your mind from the big bad propaganda machine. So Brad is one of those dudes that I've known him for a while. I've seen him in some of his darkest times. We'll talk about some of that a little bit later. But Brad, bro, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And please just introduce yourself to everybody and kind of let them know what you're about, and then we'll jump right in, man.
Hey, what's up? My name's Brad. Created a, multi-level marketing agency. This guy right here, many years ago, and I specialize in a lot of different facets of marketing and information. Many different degrees. Information security warfare minded degrees, and I'm still working on still in educational process. I don't think I'll ever stop, but that's me in a nutshell. We focus on a lot of application development, a lot of marketing strategy, and there's a really fine line between the strategy that we take for the general public, our customers, our clients, that we would do on the defense side as well. So it's pretty interesting bridge. But that's me.
Yeah. Tell us about the National Defense Labs. Tell us about kind of your role in that, and what you can talk about that at least, and your expertise.
Yeah. So I'm a director on the board of directors, I guess, at National Defense Lab, and National Defense Lab is literally just a think tank of like-minded professionals that have lots of different expertise, and my expertise happens to be application development with emphasis on OSINT. And so many years ago, these like-minded individuals were just sitting around talking about, there's got to be an easier way to help our friends and or entities that have a lot of special needs, basically, when it comes to defending the country. And I had created a communication system around 2009 to 11, which was really just what people know now as email marketing. Email marketing's been around forever, but the company is like Constant Contact. I created a civilian defense platform called Civil Dispatch and launched it at CES, and I think publicly in 2012. And we spoke after FEMA and NOAA, and they were talking about, hey, we're going to have these capabilities. All these capabilities are coming, about direct alerts for weather alerts and like FEMA alerts for all the FEMA regions around the nation. And then I spoke next, and I showed, well, here's a system that does it all. And that was sort of the bridging the gap. But I was in doing my master's degree at the time, and I was in a information security track, and had a concentration in warfare, and that was sort of the step forward. And then if you fast forward about 5 to 6 years, we continued just sort of helping out when we could, and we would get random people that in various positions and entities, organizations that are more government orgs that would say, hey, here's what we're trying to solve for. And then we had a lot of focus and interest in DARPA opportunities. And then back in the day, we thought it would be fun to just try solving some of these. And we would put the source code out on GitHub. Here's a solution to a DARPA opportunity that a lot of these primes were submitting for, and then was asked very nicely, could you not do that?
Can you not reveal all that information?
Yeah. So and that's literally just hey, you could be arming our enemies, and so that's a way different thing. So fast forward a couple more years, it was like, hey, let's put an entity together that could actually focus on these opportunities, not necessarily just for DARPA, but defense in general. And what would it look like if the fight ever came home? So we have a homeland focus on all of the venture studio applications and the technologies are focused on defending our homeland here in the continental United States, and the Alaska, and we'll call Alaska and Hawaii continental United States, right? So that's a little bit about NDL. And we have a lot of cool venture studio applications. We aren't like an active entity though, in the sense of how a normal company would operate. We literally just work on projects as they sort of find us, either through request or something that we stumble upon.
Nice. I got someone saying we have an echo. Is there anybody else watching? You got an echo? Is it when he's talking, when I'm talking? What's anybody else hear an echo, or is that just him lagging?
I heard it for a little bit. Now I hear it right now. Yeah, it comes from you.
Hold on. All right, give me a second. We didn't have an echo earlier when we did.
Yeah,
when we
it's
checked
odd.
before we came in, and now we do. So I'm blaming it all on you, Brad. It's your fault. Give me one
I'm
second.
only hearing it when I talk. After I talk.
One sec. We are connecting. 1 second. All right, talk real quick. Let's see.
1, 2, 3.
We should be good now. Is that all better, my friends? Everybody good?
For you.
It was mine. Apparently, I don't know what I changed something in the system. I didn't change anything, but I did. I don't know what I did. I never had an echo issue before, and now I got to wear headphones. I had to do it last show too for some reason. I should have done it this time, but here we are. We're good. We're all better. All right. Awesome. So National Defense Labs. That's awesome. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I met good old Brad. So Brad was coming. He got to try out a little bit and do some of the stuff that Green Berets go through, some of the training.
I got drugged through Q school.
Yeah, I got drugged through a little mini version of the Q course with us, and I got to feel the suck and embrace it a little bit. And so I have a little higher level of respect for Brad than I do for a lot of other people, just because I saw him go through some stuff that most people just don't get to go through. And I'll let him kind of just give a little once over of the world, kind of what that experience is like, because there's a lot of civilians that have no idea what's going on or anything, and then they come through just a week-long little taste of what we go through, and they're like, oh my god, this is crazy. So but they get to see kind of a little glimpse of what selection is like, and then they get a little tidbit of new course, and they get to see some small unit tactics and just some little basics of what we do. But him and some other guys got to come through and have a little bit of the fun. They got to do Nasty Nick and some of that stuff. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or anything. But
yeah, no, it was fun. It was cool to be a part of getting to pretend like we're awesome enough to get through Q school. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun to be, like I said this just recently when I was at Bragg. It's fun to be able to stand, in our minds, shoulder to shoulder with the guys that we support, right? Instead of most people have no clue. They've heard of Green Beret, but don't really know what it is. Who you guys are, and the stuff that you guys actually do for the country, because you're the silent operators. And so I thought I had a good idea of what that was until I went through that experience, and that was awesome. Forever changed me. And I have my ODA, my honorary ODA 1125. I mean, these are guys that I'll be friends with for the rest of my life. We did the suck, embrace the suck together, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's really
insane.
It's cool to from the other side for us too, like to get to see you guys. Like you guys come in, y'all know each other. Nobody, none of you guys really knew each other. I think you and Eric knew each other, but none of the other guys knew each other. And it's all how it is. It's like you're like, hey, what's up, guy? Like you just kind of. You're not really talking to anybody, and then by the end of the week, y'all are all like everybody's best friends. They're busting each other's balls, just like hanging out, just but like y'all been hanging out for years. It was pretty cool to see. It was fun. It was fun, definitely.
Yeah, super cool. And I just spent some time with them down in Bragg at 37 for the international sniper competition too, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, they're awesome dudes, man. They're like and then getting to see a lot of the active duty still, our buddies, I won't name them by names again. And it's phenomenal. It's like we didn't even leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Those relationships are really cool, man. That's why that program is really awesome. So it's really cool. Cool. No, so that goes back to how me and Brad met, and that was a fun time. And then it's funny too when, cause when I first meet someone, I mean, I'm going to judge them because I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to do it, and then, but it always, I am generally proven wrong more times than not. I'm usually proven wrong. I'm like, who's this person right here? Like whatever. All right. And then they usually show me like something else about them. Right. And then sometimes, part of like, especially GBs and some of the stuff we do, we'll test people. We try to test them. Like we'll either, we'll say something to them, that's going to try to push a button or whatever. And it's not necessarily we're not just being a dick just to be a dick, but it's just to like, we just want to see how you respond to that adversity. If you respond to that adversity in a certain way, like, all right, maybe this person's all right. Maybe they're gonna push through some stuff. And and of course all the dudes they pushed through and they were awesome, and it was a great week and stuff. So it's fun to be there. And then we get relationships like this where I still talk to you, quite often, and I've been trying to get you on here for a hot minute, so we can talk about everything, and so here we are. So let's jump in to this propaganda machine. Well, not just I call it a machine because there's about 8,000 of them or a million of them or however many. There's the machines that are running, and they're 24/7 and they're massive, and most people don't even realize that they're running. And how can we educate the American populace to be ready for this propaganda machine? So how do we jump into this and then start kind of breaking down the best process to do that?
Yeah, so I think being in on all sides of this now, 15 years later. If you put yourself in the shoes of the general public, right? Whoever, not to age myself or date myself or you, but life was very different. The life as we know it was very different 20 years ago, right? You go into the 90s and into the 2000s, post 9/11. We live in a completely different universe at this point. And then you amplify that by COVID. And then post-COVID, and then all of this just crazy stuff that we've seen. Mindset-wise, pre 9/11, we knew the world as we knew it, right? And our tribes existed inside of that world, and we all grew up the way that we grew up. And post 9/11, that world changed very significantly. I felt what patriotism felt like for the very first time on 9/11 when I was standing in line at the gas station, 40 cars back, not a single person was saying a word,
Yep.
and we didn't know really what happened at the time. We just knew we were attacked, and it wasn't just the country; it was all of us. Like all of us were attacked, and that to me that was the truest form of patriotism I ever felt at the time. Was staying at that gas station.
Yep.
And being in Omaha, when Bush flew in to Offutt over here in Bellevue, our whole city, that was a whole nother different feeling, right? Being on base that morning was just unreal. So it was just a really interesting time. Fast forward just a decade, right? So the stuff that you experienced and we had Iraq, then Afghanistan, and then just the way that our lives transitioned. Me personally was undergrad into grad school, got this first opening book, a specialized program at Bellevue University, which is one of my alma maters, in information security warfare was the individual course in the security classification or security concentration. And was taught by ex-NSA employee, won't name his name, but the first thing he said to us is, look around the room. Not all of you are going to be here by the time we graduate. Pretty average, people drop out, but because of the course content, was his point. And we all kind of joked. And I'm like literally the only one I think that was not military. And I was thinking, like, what am I doing in this class? Right. First of all, I was very intrigued about it. And I was obviously sought out for this particular class. And I didn't realize what he meant until almost years later. And we start learning about psyops and like stupid things like conspiracy theorist, and how that was ushered and programmed in everybody's mind to like automatically dismiss somebody as crazy. Right. And then when you can apply that 20 years later, through the various life experiences we've all gone through, COVID especially, it's a completely different meaning. And so that's really makes it easy for us to look back on the different tribes that exist, and what they believe and what we believe culture is and what we believe all of our upbringing and our religion and our just name a topic of division that's used, you see the world very differently. And so having that mindset, you have to apply that on the people that are just the targets, right? There's several different scenarios, but most people know what an NPC is. And in our world, you view the general public as NPCs, or non-playable characters in a video game, right? And these people only know what they know. They know what they were taught in school or taught on the streets, or in their tribe and their specific upbringing. And you have to treat them with like these NPCs when there's like information sets that are accurate, but to them it's going to be crazy conspiracy theorists, right? And I don't know, like COVID's the most perfect example, and everything that we study goes back to the COVID is like one of the greatest psyops on the world. It wasn't just our state, right? It was the world state.
It was so bad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So bad.
And so that's kind of the subject matter is how does the general public open their eyes and step out of what they know to be their world and have objective eyes on the rest of the world. And I the one of the coolest things I learned out of Washington, and I'm not going to say where or who it was from, but it was you have an opportunity. You always, every single day, have an opportunity to view a circumstance, or and I'll just use news media and what it does in social media. So let's say you're arguing with your crazy MAGA uncle or your leftist, cousin over something so stupid. You have an opportunity every single day to actually step outside of that narrative, that scenario, and look with different eyes and different perspective on the people involved, even if it's you that's involved. to view it very, very differently. And so that's the subject matter of irregular, part of the irregular warfare, not applied to warfare, right?
Right.
Which we'll do here.
That's one thing that I had a really hard time with COVID, because I'm just one of those people. I don't deal with I don't deal with stupidity, like this whole let's pretend so that we don't hurt people's feelings and that we don't do all the, like all the stuff. Like I don't handle that very well. I don't give a shit if you're upset. I don't care if this hurts your feelings, right? Like reality is reality. The world is the way it is. Like success, people are successful because they work hard and they got a little bit lucky too. Like, not everyone that works hard is going to be successful, because you also have to be like also good, right? You also have to have some skill. You also have to have some luck. Like again, and having the best idea and being competent, but then you could have something else go wrong and your whole thing crumble. And it doesn't mean that you're not like great, but it just didn't actually work out, right? And that's reality, and that shit happens all the time. And then people like they get mad about it, or like they have to cope somehow. And at the end of the day, you're just like, this is reality, bro. Like, I'm just one of those people. Like, I can't worry about things I can't control, right? So like I talk about this with my wife all the time. She's like, how do you not worry about like this and this and this? I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not getting shot at right now, so things relatively are pretty good, because like getting shot at sucks. I've been shot at before, and right now things don't suck that bad, right? Like in relative terms of like the worst situations I've been in my life, like things are pretty good right now, So, and a lot of people just haven't been in like terrible situations. That's another thing too. I mean, we can go all into the microwave society of America, where they need instant gratification. You have to have everything they want right now. But yeah, like the COVID, like, let's ignore reality. It goes along with the whole troon ideology. We got to be careful. We're on YouTube right now, so you got to be careful about certain words that we say. So just what I'm saying. But these ideologies that are being pushed that are just not based in reality, right? And COVID wasn't based in reality. You'll know that there's an actual pandemic that is like genuinely something you should be concerned about when there are people lying dead in the street. And there's so many people dead that they can't even pick up the bodies. That's when like, oh, this one's a really bad one. Like the one where
literally is the true definition of pandemic.
Yeah. Like that's it. That's it. Like everywhere. Yeah. I'm like, we should not be closing down society until like society is actually closed down just because there's dead people everywhere. That's when you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is actually probably real.
And so I frame that as a psyop, right? And people certainly died. It's up to debate. I'm not the person to debate what caused the death, what the deaths were.
Right.
That's subjective to the time and to the people that are smarter than I am. But when you're operating outside of I live in these copy and paste societies, right? You see it very differently. And with COVID, I was very fortunate. I had a heads up. That it was probably going to come like in December, right? November, December, that this was happening and it was trickling out and there was a possibility. And, obviously didn't say anything to anyone, but I set my own company down right after we got back from Christmas break. And I had bought laptops, and because we basically came into the office every single day. We weren't really set up to work remotely. And I had all these things already ready for everybody when they came back from Christmas break. And I basically said in our team meeting, hey, there's this thing that's going on. It could be serious, and we're not set up for this remote work thing. But if it happens, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep working through it all. And we practiced for 2 weeks working remotely before anyone was talking about, and so in that shoes, knowing people, it's you've experienced this, no doubt. But in those shoes, and you're telling people that depend and trust on you to lead them, on a day-to-day basis, knowing that they're looking at you like, dude, this guy's flipping insane. You know what I mean? Like completely off. And we'll talk about this later. You fall into the conspiracy theorist, right? Lane,
Yep.
To where all of a sudden you're wearing you're the one wearing the tinfoil hat, but knowing that it was going to come, like the probability that we were gonna lock down was I would say upper 90 percentile at that point in the first week of January. We prepped for it, and then to watch everybody go through all of the different narratives that were thrown at us, right? Don't wear masks. And it's really funny because this is not unique to me either. People close to me, when you offered, hey, maybe we should wear masks. The masks don't work. Okay, yeah, you're probably right. Mm-hmm. Then don't do anything. Well, we probably shouldn't be traveling, but let's travel. We were traveling for office and business through the whole thing. Well, then it was, maybe we should be wearing masks. And then, hey, maybe we should distance ourselves 6 feet, right? I think the coolest part of it all was being along for the ride and watching it and having to just shut the hell up through each one of the narratives on the behalf of the person that I was talking to, whether that was employees
and like how the 6 feet thing came from literally nowhere, because it was actually supposed to be 6 meters. Because 6 meters is actually the distance that would be feasible from a scientific standpoint. But Americans don't understand what 6 meters actually means, right? Because we don't, people they're like, what's a meter? That's a weird. We don't know what that means. And two, they don't realize that that's like 18 feet, right? That's a really long. That's more than most spaces have in them. So we wouldn't even be able to go into anywhere. And it's not feasible at all. So then they were like,
6 years later, it was just made up, right?
Yeah. So they just said 6 feet because it made it up. It's insane.
So the psyop narrative changed a lot, right? And if you're in our shoes, or if you even have a little bit, you wouldn't even have to be formally trained. You should have been able to spot it a mile away. And the thing was, and this is a current narrative, and we'll talk about this a lot, I would imagine on the rest of this podcast. But the current narrative was, if I say something, I'm going to be shunned, or there's some sort of threat against me speaking my voice out that's maybe saying maybe this is wrong or wrong. And then the people that did speak up, even if they just question the narrative, that's your number one. If you get fire off of questioning a narrative, questioning anything. Mm-hmm. That is your 100% validation that you're dealing with the psyop. If there's opposition, can't speak, and you have to silence that person, 100% psyop. And that's not my theory. That's something you're taught. And you go through NCI, for example, Neurocognitive Institute with Chase Hughes, excuse me. That is that's what you're taught, right? When you're dealing with psyops. And that was just nonstop through the whole thing. Now, like all of us probably did, we loved on the person and we gave the person grace. And there was always in the back of my mind, there was always that chance that, well, what if this is real? You know what I mean? People are getting sick, and I got COVID, and my test came back positive. You could throw the test under a tap water and get a positive result. You know what I mean? But you better not say that out loud, or you'd be crucified. Mm-hmm. So,
well, I mean, the initial COVID-19 tests that they first started putting out were all based off of the flu tests.
Yeah.
If you had the flu, you were going to test positive for COVID. Right. So it was like,
now there's actual data out there that shows exactly what most of the deaths probably were. And, and it's just, I'm not smart enough to say COVID was real or not. And I'm choosing not to do that.
I'm not saying it wasn't real.
Well, coronaviruses are very
SARS was real, right? So SARS is a real thing. So here's what's crazy, dude. So here's what's really crazy. So I write all the time. I have a Substack I write on, but I wrote fiction stuff before. I was one of those dudes that I got a master's degree and I got through college because I can write, and I did degrees that didn't require any math because math is not my strong point, but I can sit down and write a research paper in 2 hours, that's due that day, and get it done and just knock it out, and it works, and get an A on it. And like my wife, she'll be like, what is wrong with you? Like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. But so I was actually writing a novel, and it was about a mRNA vector virus that they had engineered called Category X, because Category X is the pregnancy, the pregnancy category that is not recommended for use for pregnant women, that was altered to kind of sterilize. It was anyway, the whole conspiracy thing to like sterilize the world, basically, this whole thing. And so I'm writing this thing. I got the novel pretty much, like 30 or like 3/4 of the way done. COVID hits, but I did a lot of research on mRNA and vector viruses, like all kinds of research. And I have what's crazy, and I haven't put anything out yet, but I might do something someday. I have a whole thumb drive where I saved all of the research that I pulled for this novel, and you can't find any of that research anymore. They pulled it all down. All the mRNA stuff that I did for this, that I researched for this stuff, this is all pre 2016. Like this is all this was probably, because part of it was when I was even in the Q course when I was writing this. So this is like 2011, 2012 timeframe when I was writing this. And you go, and I went back and searched some of this stuff and some of those records and some of the papers and all the peer reviews that I used to research for this novel, and it's all gone. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why is all this stuff?
Virology book.
Why is it gone?
Same thing. I have a virology book I bought because I wanted to understand it. And I went through it like it was something I enjoyed reading and tried to understood immediately. And a lot of that data has changed now. And whether that's good or bad or, nefarious.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, so COVID hit, and I was like, well, I don't know if I can release this novel because it just kind of happened in real life. Not the same as my book was supposed to be, but it kind of happened the way that it
now you got some killer life experience that you can put in the rest of that and finish it. But
dude, I'm working on a few other things. We'll see. I don't want to talk about some of them. So actually, one of the things I'm working on right now, I'm scared that shit's about to come true too, and I don't want to talk about that too much because then I'm like,
you should have never started that book. You brought that into
bro, right, dude? And some of the stuff.
But you want to talk about psyops? If people's eyes aren't open now, they should be. And the problem with that is going right back to the original conversation was, there's people that their eyes aren't open, and they'll never be. They'll never be open. And
dude, that's where I'm at this point, man. It's like, well, I can't. Part of me is that way. Part of me feels that way. But the other side of me is like, we can't give up. We can't give up because we can't. One, the social media and the internet is way more black pilled than the public actually is. And when you go out and you interact with people, in everyday life, it is a little bit better, right? It's just, they're not quite there, right? If you go out and talk to 100 people on the streets, they don't know who Ian Carroll is. Thank God, right? Most of them, right? Very few people do. But if you go on X, and you interact with you say one wrong thing, then you'll get the Ian Carroll crowd of Nazi weirdos. So it's and it's really weird. And I'll have to actually share some metrics with you and have you run through some of your systems and see what you get. I got some weird. So anything that I push, anything about Israel at all, once it gets to I'll have to look at the other measures. Once it gets to a close to 1,000 likes or so on that post, it'll start getting bombarded with tiny little accounts and they're all negative comments, right? But they're accounts with 20 followers or 6 followers or whatever, and they'd all been made in the last year to a few months.
Well, that's actually a really great segue though on the crucifixion of opposition. So we all saw that, right? And I'm going to bring you hope too. When you're saying, hey, we got to keep going, we got to keep moving forward. The hope there is you have opposition for whatever your opposition is that is thinking that same mindset about you. And so the point there is, well, who's right and who's wrong? Well, that's really subjective on the tribe and the education system and the way that the tribe was brought up, and even down to like cultural and religious beliefs. So what's the point there, right? The point, why would we have all of this opposition, and why are there wars? And like, I'm talking like wars in families, and I see this on Facebook all of the time. Now, I was very fortunate to go through this myself in early, like 08, 09, 10. You know, we just had my oldest daughter. I'm in this, like, in these programs that I'm learning that, hey, everything you know is a lie. Right? You're being told this from people that your knowledge of what the NSA is, and, you know, all these different departments. Everything that you know is absolutely a lie. Your history, everything. And like, you have to, like, what does that mean? And it's literally, you guys are all cattle, and you have a purpose of just being cattle in a system, and you'll stay in your different corrals, and then you're going to do and say and buy and act the way that you're raised in those corrals. So and how that applied to like Facebook, you know, I was like, all of us probably do at some point. And on Facebook, I chose one side or the other on the ones that I leaned with. I didn't really fully understand why I leaned that side. I was raised that way, just being from Nebraska, you know, as a Republican state, leading state, more of a conservative state. But if you would have asked me at the time, why are you Republican, or why are you lean side? Well, because I'm conservative. But I probably couldn't tell you what that meant, right? I knew what I thought it meant to me, but I'm learning all of these things back then that are repositioning and retraining your mind, or I call it opening my mind to a different view of the world. And thankfully, I was very outspoken on Facebook back then. And I was saying, here's what I'm seeing. Why the hell can anyone else, you know, why can no one else see this thing about specific people and groups? And I'm screaming with my social media megaphone, which is not abnormal, you know, now. We've all experienced that now, to the point where, you know, I had people like even in my own family that were like, you know, is Brad okay? And you know, I polarized a lot of my friendships and stuff too, that saw differently, you know, and they'll probably forever see me in that light, even though, you know, I've changed over the years, obviously.
Right.
So when you through COVID, we saw the worst of the worst, which I think is the worst of the worst to date we've seen in our own culture.
Well, I mean, yeah. So COVID on the grand scale, I would say this foreign push right now, that the anti-Israel, anti-Jew push, propaganda push right now, especially to divide the right, it's pretty big, man. Like I don't know. COVID would be bigger on scale, but on just the way they're using, just they've cut these certain influencers all out on the same exact. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like I would say COVID and this are the two craziest ones I've seen.
Yeah, and so I mean, I don't know a lot specifically about that, but the whole point of the entire conversation is, what can you do about it? And is there actually an end game, or is it just nonstop systematic control of all of the different cattle, right? And I'm not saying that we are cattle. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just use that as the example that we were taught through my particular program. And and that follows under psyop, right? So, and psyops come in many different flavors and many different shapes and forms. And so it's an interesting application of kind of where I've gone career wise over the last 25 years, because I've used a lot of these same things in my industry.
Right.
I was
like marketing to, right. Yeah. It's like marketing and propaganda are very close because you're kind of trying to achieve the same goals. Right?
It's the exact same thing. And even to the technologies that exist that, I'll just use data. Everybody's probably heard of what a data broker is, that harvests all of our data and then resells it. And that inadvertently creates a lot of different systems. But just the guise of using that data to know my potential customer before my ad even hits them, right? And then to deliver it to my customer in a specific way. TikTok's a really great example of it, where I'm going to give them a systematic video type, which is going to do things like pull at empathy or pull at excitement, and then show like a sad one, for example, and then show a happy one, and then boom, ad, right? And when you operate outside of the shoes of just a normal person living, I'm a normal actor in the theater, right? You can see it. You see it. You can see it on Instagram. You can see it, like I like shorts. I work out pretty daily, and I like these short brands. I won't say their name on here. I might but I wear a specific brand when I work out most of the time. And
all right, stop trying to sell your shorts on my.
I'm not selling my shorts.
I ain't got that many followers.
I got to give them a shout out because I love them, but they raise so much money for veterans. It's crazy. But Born Primitive is who I'm talking to, by the way, or talking about.
Oh yeah.
But I like yeah, they're cool. But when you operate outside of this and you start to see these things, it actually breaks down the control mechanisms, and then you don't have that emotional ego tied to whatever the conversation might be, and it removes the heat out of the conversation. And I have it's not unique to me. I had these conversations with everybody through COVID on every flipping conversation. I call them key points through COVID, because you go back and measure COVID narratives. There's definitely key point narratives used,
right?
But its effect on the general public, which was my circle, right? And you had to have compassion back then. We all had to have compassion and as much understanding as we could, and that's very true to this day on whatever the current argument is, right?
Yep.
And subjectively or systematically, it's always a divisional argument that people are arguing, and it's fed by, and I don't know who it's fed by, but it's being fed by something to put you to butt. And when you continue that path, you lose what it was to be alive before all of this existed, which is what I was referring to, like in the 90s, right? Our world that we knew of is dead, right? And partially because of the constant division that social media and the internet has, helped ramp. So in your scenario where you're saying, these narratives are being pumped in from other countries, 100% nonstop. Right. Nice. And that's the irregular warfare side of warfare. It's not kinetic versus, irregular warfare. And for those that are listening that don't understand the difference, kinetic is, I can see the bomb hitting the building or the target, right? Irregular warfare, cognitive warfare, I can't see. I have no idea it even exists. I feel it. I have a hint that something doesn't feel right. I can't articulate it,
Bro, I'm going to share this real quick. You literally just took words. Are you on my computer? Because I haven't even actually finished writing this yet. Hold on. I'm going to share this. This is let me get this to the stage. Hold on.
Well, I'll just say I'm not on your computer.
Oh, no, not that one. This one. Come on, move this. So this is, I'm writing this Substack right now. So here. This is what this is a piece I'm writing about the division. So everything, one of the propaganda, and this is a Russian style propaganda that's being pushed against us, is about division. But this is kind of the main point that you just made. You can look at COVID. It's the same virus, the same country. One side saw a public health crisis that required coordinated action. The other saw government overreach, manipulation of data, and a loss of individual freedom. Masks became political. Vaccines became political. Even the origin of the virus became a dividing line. Even when concrete proof came out about where the virus originated from and when, still it remained divisive, right? So like we're so divided, right? We're so divided that even when concrete proof comes out, millions of people, whatever side that comes from, the other millions of people on the other side are going to completely disregard it just because, and I talk about this in this piece that I'm writing, people have made that narrative part of their identity. And that's why propaganda is so powerful. And that's one of the things that I really try to get across to people is that people latch on to these narratives and they make them part of their identities. And that becomes kind of who they are, like who they support. That's why I never called myself MAGA, right? I support Trump now. I've supported him through a lot of the stuff. I've had my like disagreements with certain things that he's done, obviously, and I've voiced those opinions. I mean, there's people that there's a bunch of MAGA people that attacked me especially during the 2020 upcoming to the 2020 election, just because I was mad about the way he handled COVID and some of the things he did during that. But regardless, I'm one of those people. I'm going to critically think about everything that's going on, which includes the actions of our commander in chief, and they should be held to a higher standard. So a lot of them were like, well, he didn't know, and he got lied to by Fauci. He got lied to by all these other people. I'm like, okay, right. So like, if you're the CEO of a company and you're whatever is whatever one of your chiefs is doing all this stupid stuff and is like screwing over a bunch of people, like you're still ultimately responsible for that as the CEO, right? So yeah, I get it that maybe you're not the ultimate bad guy in this scenario, but you should have known better, and you should have been on top of that situation.
Yeah, and then and then you're dealing with like Captain Hindsight,
exactly. And I get it. And so again, I'm gonna call out the good Trump. I'm gonna call out the bad Trump. I'm gonna call out the good president, and I'm gonna call out the bad president, regardless of who's in office. And anybody who's ever been around my account and has followed me for any amount of time at all, I call out both sides. I'm a conservative, so I end up calling out the left. Well, I'll take this back. I did end up calling out the left a whole lot more than I have recently, because what I call the halal right, this whole group of Podcastistan is what I like to call them. These former right grifters that have all just like cut tail and joined, started getting on the Muslim peen, like I like to call it. Good night. This is the bad part too, and it requires us to respond to it. But now we're not fighting the left like we should be fighting the left, and I'm not talking about centrist Democrats. I'm talking about the progressive left, the people that are like actively trying to thwart the Constitution on a daily basis. I'm not talking about the like people that are like Joe Manchins, who are just like a West Virginia Democrat who's actually just basically just a centrist. I'm fine with those people. That's perfectly okay. I'm actually socially I'm pretty center. I'm a conservative from a constitutional standpoint, but I like socially I'm also one of those people, like I don't care if you're an adult. Once you're an adult and you're doing whatever you do with other adults, I don't care, dude. Like I don't even why are we even talking about this, right?
Yeah, I mean, that goes right back to the warfare used to be physical first, information second, right? And now it's completely reversed. And it used to like now you shape perception through before anything happens, right?
Right.
Like if you can shape,
yeah,
if you can shape what the people believe, you don't even need to fight them at this point. And
well, that's where I've made this point numerous times too. Like You can attack the United States kinetically. You cannot attack us militarily. There's no possible way. And I went through this, and I've walked through this 100 times, right? You can't come from the Atlantic. You get within 300 plus miles, and we know you're there. There's no coming. You can't come. You can't come through the Gulf.
There's not a kinetic war on our.
No, you can't. Even if you launched
at all, there's no way. There's no way to attack.
No, even if you launched 1,000 nukes, maybe a couple get through, but then the whole world gets destroyed. Like we launch nukes too, everyone dies. No one wins in that scenario. If you can't come through Mexico, you can't come through the Pacific, because even if you did somehow sneak through the Pacific, which is also the same as the Atlantic, we have just as many monitors. You can't get through the Pacific anyway. But even if you did, say you got a beachhead, right? Then you have the Rockies. You can't get through the Rockies.
You wouldn't have resources to even get to where you're going. Yeah, no, I'm a battle planner at nature, and
and you can't come from Canada. So like, there's literally no way to attack the United States from a kinetic standpoint. So the only way to attack us is through information operations, through massive 5G irregular warfare, which is like going through economic warfare, information operations, all the ways that they're attacking us right now. And so that's why I'm trying to push this kind of information out to people, is like, hey, guys, they're not going to spend money on tanks and bombs and planes and drones and all the stuff to attack you. There's not going to be the Red Dawn scenario coming. That's not what's going to hit you. They're going to attack you these other ways. They're going to flood your borders with millions of people. They're going to have them come assimilate and live in the country, but not actually assimilate. Assimilate comes with quotations, right? They're not coming to join American society to be Americans that follow the Constitution. They're coming to vote a certain way so that they can eventually take power, right? And so what this whole thing is it's a long plan. And the problem also is that we operate on a 4-year cycle, a 4-year planning cycle. It's really our military, and you know this, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is one of the things that's really hard from a strategic planning standpoint. It frustrates our military planners, especially our higher level military planners, because if a Trump-esque like leader does not win in the 2028 election, the new NSS and the new NDS that comes in from that next president is going to be drastically different than what Trump's were. So now all the strategies change. So now everything that they've been planning for, that gets altered. All those plans now go away, and they all get changed, and everything we were doing goes away. China works on 50 to 100-year plans. All these other countries that they have. I'm not advocating for China's leadership style. I'm just saying we're at a disadvantage from a planning standpoint because we have to deal with this, and that's part of why we have the bureaucracy system that we have that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And why we have to have some of these systems in place that, we hate the bureaucracy and the bureaucracy is terrible, but you have to have some of these systems in place that are longer acting systems to plan for some of these longer acting problems. Right.
Right. Well, I think, from the public side of being an actor in the theater, most people, they just live in that binary state, right? True or false. And intellectually lazy, easy to manipulate, real analysis is everything's uncertain, but that's their identity. Like you said. And I don't know. Good, bad, or ugly. I'm in DC a lot, and I tell people, like, especially if I get brought into conversations, if not necessarily family anymore, but friends and associates, they think that Washington has the same differences or the same politically motivated hatred or disagreements with the other side, and it's the complete opposite, right?
Yep.
Everybody works together, and this is especially true for our military, which is so cool. Yep. But General Fenton or Pete stepping in and taking over last year, and Department of Defense becoming a Department of War, and it's really a unified. Obviously, there's bad eggs in every
right.
Right. There's
every demographic you could think of.
Thank
no matter
you.
what.
Yeah. So, but even when you're on the hill, in my own opinion and own perspective, everyone's working for the same continuity of government, and the leadership change really wasn't as significant as most people would imagine they were. Yeah, you have offices and roles that are changed, and the people, the human changes are absolutely there, but it's not anything like what you would imagine it is watching Fox News versus CNN, right? In a psychological warfare in a theater stage, again, the cattle don't get to see that, right? And it's not necessarily, who am I to say why? But being able to identify it is your understanding of the information that you're being fed and how it relates to the world around you. And that if you can separate your ego from that, that's the only way that I can see a future that we can actually make some real change in the United States and bring things like patriotism back in the truest form of what it feels like to be a free American. So I just like, I don't know, when it comes to information warfare, to have to ask yourself, man, did I actually live through a psyop, and was it truly global? And did my own country do this, against the populace? Who knows, right? But from a public perspective, there are ways that you can actually start to step back and look at. Joe Rogan did a really great, I think he said this years ago. And he basically said, ask yourself, why am I being told this in the relation to like news and media? Why am I being told this? And a really great thing you would, Chase Hughes also preaches, one of my professors at NCI, was literally like, no matter what it is and what I might feel about it, whether that's ego in my ego or my actual spirit of who I am, I absolutely believe this. When you receive any information, the best initial response that you can do to control where your mind goes is to say, maybe, right? Maybe.
Right.
And that response I found personally going through COVID and dealing with the different conversations and drama is the wrong word to use, but people that are actually freaking out about this because they truly believe that this is going to kill them or kill their family member, or they had a family member unfortunately pass away. That helps disarm that charge most of the time.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to break this down, so this goes perfectly to like understanding information. What can I do myself? So I look at my world. I'm the main character of my world, right? What is it that I can learn and do to start controlling my understanding of information that's given to me and my response emotionally, intelligently, intelligence and physical response to that information set? And if we can raise the consciousness of just little things that you can do, just like if you're going to go to therapy for a trauma that you experienced, right? You can relearn to map your neural pathways around that. Not neural, but also the heart. Your heart's where your frequencies generate, by the way. So you can relearn to map your anger, your emotional response, right, to these things, and that's how you start balancing this out. Then the psyop campaign isn't as successful as they might have been in the past, and all of a sudden that starts applying to everything else in this world, that the world is a lie, right? All your history is a lie. Now you can subjectively look at it and not have such an emotional response to this, I have to fill this, or screw this guy, Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have shot, like all the crap that we all experience together as a society, as a tribe, a unified tribe. That's how you start balancing it out. And that really comes like there's 5 filters. There's five filters that I have put a lot of mathematical research into, which we'll look at a system that I helped create to do this. But it's source, incentive, application, emotion, and timing. And I'm just talking specifically to information set that I'm receiving. Okay. So if I can control or understand these 5 things of any information set that's coming in, I can now start to disseminate and start seeing maybe there was an objective behind why I'm being told this, or it's just news, right? And then I can take the maybe and not have such an emotional trigger. If everyone can get on more of an alignment on that perspective, our world would be completely different. You would have more empathy for who you might be combative with. You would have more understanding. You would even have more willingness to try to understand what the other person is saying, and not just automatically say, you guys are crazy. You guys are crazy MAGA, you're crazy left. And that's taking the control out of the person or the thing that is trying to control you. Applied across the world on many different factors. And I'll use advertising, for example. I'm a certified TikTok shopaholic. TikTok knows how to sell me anything. Most of the things I like, right? Same with Instagram shop.
I'm brand new on TikTok, dude. I barely know how to use TikTok at all. So yeah.
So I'll use a really good example. TikTok, I used it a lot during COVID, just like, I think that's really when we saw it explosion. And same with Instagram. All of us were on social media all the time. And even for my own company, MMG, or OMG at the time, different company, we basically said, everybody is going to be online right now. Now is your time to triple down on your advertising budget and go hammer it. And this is where you're going to make the most sales. And I was 100% right in that aspect. But fast forward that to anybody that buys, off Amazon, or like, so much of our world changed during that first year and a half, 2 years, even into the end of 21, on our buying habits and everything else. Like we were changed as a society, but they know how to influence my emotional likes on what I thought I needed. Right. And that was an emotional trigger response. A trigger was pulled, and I had an emotional buying response to whatever it knew to deliver to me, because it knew my likes, my dislikes, my browsing habits. But if you can get to that level of understanding of maybe and reposition this in a different way to where you can start analyzing the data before you start automatically putting it into your mind as fact without really looking at the data behind the narrative, you can even control how you buy, right? I'm no longer controlled by my really bad TikTok buying habits, right? And I was so bad, dude. I bought an oven off of TikTok that was like a 3-in-1 unit, and this thing was it's still awesome to this day. I posted a video because I had donated to a local, I don't know, it was a fundraiser for one of my friend's kids' school, and I donated to it, and I bought what I thought was a box of 10 cookies. But what I really bought was 10 boxes of 400 cookies. So when we got it, I was like, I had just bought this new oven, and I'm like, dude, we're going to make a bakery in this, and I started we made cookies every day, just stacks of cookies. And all of us probably gained so much weight.
Good idea, Fairy. That's what we call that in the military. Yeah. Good idea, Fairy.
But I made a video on TikTok, and I have a lot of TikTok followers, but I didn't at the time. And I barely posted on TikTok, and before I was sort of afraid and was trained to operate in the shadows, right? So I never posted online, or very, very rarely did I post online, especially if it was anything me, family different. And I made this video on this oven because I was truly excited about this thing, man. I was like, dude, we had this much space. Now we have this much space. Like, dude, I bought this oven. I made a video on it, and TikTok reached out to me and they were like, dude, we love this video. And we think that you would be a great, what is it called? UGC, user generated content, UGC creator.
Influencer. You're an influencer.
Yeah.
Bro.
I don't want to be an influencer, right? I don't, like, even to this day. And I'm like, we have this new pilot program going on. We think you'd be great for it. It's a natural, and we'll help train. We'll give you all everything you need to know. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Oh, wait, I can buy stuff and get paid for it? Hell yeah, count me in. And that's what I did. I joined it. So fast forward now, you go on my TikTok and like, this dude's selling crap. Yeah, I sell this stuff that I absolutely love. But,
selling easy bake ovens.
Yeah, but I'm not tied to that emotional buying habits like I was before.
Right.
Because I've been able to raise out of that. A lot of that raise has come over the last probably 2.5 years since we've been working on Nemosine. So
yeah. Oh, we're gonna segue into that. Before we do though, I'm gonna cut. So everybody, we got about 1,000 people on X right now. I'm going to ask. I linked it in X. For all of you great people on X, please jump over to YouTube. Give me some love on YouTube. I need to build that platform over there. I know X is better. Elon Musk, you're here.
You think
Lonnie? I love it.
You think Lonnie's watching? But he might be.
Yeah. Elon, if you're watching, I still love you. But I need a little help getting the YouTube one going. That one's lagging a little bit behind. So
I actually tagged in a post last week.
Yeah. Oh, did you, Elon? Yeah. He's never.
Yeah, he's the one. I found my old flamethrower in my garage when I was cleaning my garage out.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, that was so cool. Yeah.
Boring Company. Yeah.
Yeah, Boring Company, not a flamethrower. It's not one.
No, it's not a flamethrower. No, he's the one dude on, like, I've been reposted and quote posted and reposted by almost every big X, pretty much any big X account that I would care to be reposted by. Like, right? Like, I don't give a crap about some of the big X accounts, but like his is the only one he still hasn't yet, man. And I think it's, I don't know. He probably went to some of my like earlier tweets when I was like a small account. He's probably like, this guy used to be an asshole when he didn't have any followers, but whatever. Maybe we'll get one at some point. But yeah, guys, if you please, if you are on X, please reshare, repost, share the space. If you can jump over to YouTube, like and subscribe, please. That'll help out. Rumble, same. I'm trying to build the Rumble. The Rumble's the lowest one, but hey, we're trying to make it work. Eke that one out too. But thank you all for showing up here. We're just kind of getting into it. If you're having a drink with us, I don't know. I'm following in the footsteps of of the late and great. Oh, and then I just went damn blank on him. I just went blank. I'm drinking champagne right now. That's what I'm doing. Geez. So yeah. So, but please, everybody, please retweet the space for us and get some more people in here. And we're gonna jump into Mnemosyne so that he can talk about. He can let us know kind of this system that he built, and Brad, go into that and let us know. Let's talk about that. So, I think it was a good segue for it.
So living through all of this stuff, just like all of us have over the last 6 years, and then myself a decade prior to that, after the introduction to like information warfare, as it would be, it's always really bothered me that there's not a way to measure this, and how do you solve for that? That was really the board meeting we had. That was like, hey, Project Stellar is cool with space defense and Athena, which is an AI platform that was written specifically for our elected officials on bills. Really cool systems. But when this challenge came up, it was really sort of I think it was decided that maybe we'll be able to figure this out, but maybe it's not a good use of our time. Well, I'm working on a doctorate right now in statecraft, and national security. And instead of a doctoral thesis, I write three theses. I don't even know what the word is for plural thesis is.
Plural thesis.
Somebody can chime in.
I don't know. Ask Rock.
Yeah, I'm not that smart apparently. But so I actually put that in because it fits really well with my thesis for my doctorate. So I want to solve it really for me, but put a tool out there that would actually help the general public sort of figure out how information is delivered. One that's useful, and be able to see and track narratives and how those narratives change over time. And that's based on source, incentive, application, emotion, and timing. And that's the Nemosine, which is I name all my projects after Greek gods and goddesses. I don't know why, I just do. But it's really from a silent weapons angle. We studied a lot of these a lot of the subject matter that we study over the last 10 years were documents that were truly deemed as conspiracy theory, and for the reasons for wanting to study that, it was to understand sort of narrative processing. But there's this one document that we studied. I don't even know what year it would have been, called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And it was rumored to be left in an old copier and then later found. And there's a bunch of lore around whether it was actually legitimate or not. And we studied protocols, protocol elders of Zion, power strategy and influence, which I think it's still studied today. A lot of WikiLeaks leaks, and then Snowden revelation were some of the primary ones. But out of all of the things that we studied, this quiet weapons or silent weapons for quiet wars document is phenomenal. And again, maybe, right? You take the scenario of maybe, if any information that you're reading, whether it's fiction, fact, or news that's being reported to you. So that's the guys in which I would recommend everybody take everything, whether it's a Twitter post, whatever, or X, sorry, Lonnie, whether it's a post online in any social media network, a video we see, or something that's delivered via a reputable source, as maybe. And there's your baseline, okay? So mathematically, when we start looking at these 5 factors, or I call them filters, what's the formula in which I would need to solve for how can I pull people out of this conditional perspective into an unconditional perspective to view information differently. That's basically that's what one of my theses about, and really transitional warfare, irregular warfare versus kinetic warfare. And the current shift from traditional warfare to information warfare, we're living in that now. So the last 30 years, you can systematically say, it's in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, it's an opinion of people that are a lot smarter than me in a lot of different positions, that we've been under a constant information warfare. And I'll just use 9/11 as the 30 plus years. Okay. Going back to the world we lived in is not the world we live in now. In fact, you can make the case that, man, we're in a different universe altogether. So
yeah, for sure.
It's not just the perception, but it's the facts. What's the one thing that we heard over and over and over again during COVID? Well, do your research, right?
Right.
But the facts are really subjective on the information you were finding. And then I guarantee you 99.9% of the population wasn't going to figure out if the information that they found was actually accurate or where it came from. It was just some doctor's name slapped on a university title or a department, BARDA or whatever. So, but how do we track this, and what would the formula even look like? Well, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars has mathematical battle formulas, which is what we actually studied, and how that applies to controlling the general public. Okay. If I would have talked about this in between 2011 and probably 2023, 24, I would have been instantaneously, you are a conspiracy theorist, you are out of your flipping mind, and I just don't need to talk to this person, right? So you're very selective with what you say and off this information. Again, conspiracy theory, right? What term can I use to discredit somebody immediately without having any sort of fact, fiction, or evidence to back it up? That's the term. So conspiracy theorist is used and has been used our entire lifetimes, dating back to the 40s. So when we study this document is an awesome read. So if you like fiction, if you like science fiction, if you like an open mind, I would recommend everyone to go find it. National Defense Lab has a podcast on the Deep Dive podcast, and I don't remember what podcast it is. It's like episode 75, maybe episode 75, and it covers that specific specific document. And what that document does is it paints out, if you were going to create, when you brought this up a little bit ago, if you were going to create a systematic attack on the United States or a populace in any country, how would you do that to subvert the general population? So think Bolsheviks, right? Like I'm assuming people know what the
Bolsheviks
revolution was. So this document is awesome, and it's the one out of almost everything that I've ever studied before that I think I absorbed the most on. Could it be possible that we're living through this type of psyop or operation in the theater in which I live or operate? So that's kind of
it's that you're bringing that up. So I don't know if you've been seeing this huge push, and I don't know if this is I don't know how this is on all the other platforms. I need to get more active on some of the other platforms. I'm more active on X, so I see this on X all the time, and I think it's active on some of the other platforms too. And I've talked to some people that have seen it on some other platforms as well. But the protocol. So you just talked about the protocols of Elders of Zion, right? And then Bumps Johnson just did that. The protocols of Elders of Zion seems to be the greatest product of misinformation, and it is. It's one of the most reproduced products of propaganda that's ever been
for sure
published.
A false document can shape human behavior. Period.
Right. So for those of you that don't know, so what that was, the protocols of Elders of Zion was a czarist propaganda from the Russian. So the Russian czar, back in the early 1900s, 1903, I believe, it was a newspaper that was about the equivalence of what we would put as a tabloid today, right? He was a pro-czarist newspaper, news person, journalist, whatever you want to call it, right? But it was essentially a tabloid, and there was a lot of protests going on at the time about the czar and about the oppression of it's a monarchy at the time, right? And he produced the protocols of the Elders of Zion to give the czar an enemy, a clear enemy. And what it led to was the first pogrom against the Jewish people in Russia. And for those of you that don't understand what a pogrom is, that was the first act of political violence it wasn't really political. It was a push of propaganda violence against Jewish people based off of this narrative it was propaganda called the Protocols of Elders of Zion, and it was framed as minutes. So that's what was clever about it. He did it as minutes from a meeting. So how we would do it today, if any of you have ever been in business or done any kind of when you sit down at a council meeting or anything like that, right? All right, the minutes have started. This is what we've talked about. We have someone who's recording everything that has been said, so on and so forth. They put forth this propaganda in that way, and it read, and it's all the talking points that you're seeing today. It's these Jewish these Jewish people that owned all the banks and all of the industries and all the stuff, they all got together and they talked about how they're going to dominate the world. They're going to take over Russia and take over the rest of the world, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. They're all evil. They're terrible. And they're going to do all this evil stuff to us. And we have to stop them now. It led to the first pogrom in 1903, which then gave the Tsar kind of a scapegoat to allow them to push back against some of these revolutions that were budding in that stage of what was beginning to happen in Europe, which was a push against the monarchs in Europe. And so people don't understand history.
Rolled you right into World War I.
Exactly. So people don't understand history. So they don't understand that was even going on. And they don't even understand that this was a thing that happened, right? So I did a whole thread on the protocols of the Elders of Zion on X. I reposted it just the other day because and this is what we're seeing. And I'm seeing this all the time on X. Yeah. This is a huge push, and they're using all of the talking points from the protocols right now to vilify Israel. They're using it to vilify Jews, but they're slanting it in a way that it's all Israel doing it all to us. So this is all the claims you see of like Israel owning the United States. It's all the same talking points. It's all literally propaganda made for Russian peasants in 1903 that they've repackaged and they've revamped it for the modern day American that doesn't know anything about history, and now they're pushing it on our populace to divide the right. And so that's what it is. So I'm glad you brought that up.
False, and it's still massively influential today, to this very day. And I've actually seen them. I've seen the majority, like the archive of all of these documents, and then some other Russian-based propaganda newspapers. I've seen them in my university's library. They have the largest collection of it, and then we've also been over to the Library of Congress to look at this, emphatically, and it's crazy because you can see these in this specific case. You can see this also with Germany and the rise of Hitler. How Hitler.
The Nazis used it. The Soviets used it. The Mussolini used it. They all used it, dude. It's insane. Yeah. And now they're using it again.
Yeah, and you're like going back to silent weapons. As if you guys read this, silent weapons is such a great foretelling document. Whether it's real or not, who knows? But it has a systematic approach of how you would even control a populace, and you're guaranteeing that your populace they're dumb. It's NPC like behavior that they're just going to do and say or not behave in a way that that you would expect them to behave, and it is. It's psyop 101, which is crazy. And just like you said, the general public doesn't know that. They don't know. Very few of the population has the opportunity to go through the Holocaust Museum in Washington D.C. or even study, I'll call them communist dictators. There's lots of different versions of communism, obviously, but the people that pulled the trigger on the democide being the murder of your own populace. Okay. But Snowden revelations were great. Some will label conspiracy theory, obviously partially real, proven to be real. But it did ratify the existence of programs that did exist, right? That made stuff really harder to evaluate. WikiLeaks, also raw data, created a lot more narratives, not really clarity around the narratives. So you could even make the case that, hey, this was an information dump just to, if you're going to lie to somebody, where do you put the lie? You put it in front of their face and you let them create the lie for you, right? So more information doesn't equal truth in WikiLeaks. That's basically the summary there. But it often creates a lot more confusion, which is just another psyop tactic, right? So training the population to understand what a psyop actually is subjective to the person, because the person has a lot of different tribal, cultural building blocks of who they are, right? So you have to start really simply on a baseline, which is maybe. And I love Chase's explanation of that. I know there's clips on TikTok and YouTube, and maybe I'll discern this information as real, and maybe I'll spend some time doing more information, and maybe it just doesn't matter, right? Maybe it just literally doesn't matter. But that helps create the relationship perspective back into the communication attempt. Because normally,
keep talking. 1 second.
Yeah, go for it. Normally, when people are arguing online, it's somebody that's trying to convey information about a way that it made them feel, which is an egotistical tie-in to it. So, another couple great documents, like National Defense Lab, for example, we do a lot of white papers and a lot of research on some of these documents, not a lot of them, but it's fun when a targeted narrative gets set out. A lot of times, a lot of entities jump on it, and then it's like a race to be who could be the most validated resource of this information out to the public, and so that it's the same thing on marketing. In the way that we use Google search, for example, if I type a search in, Google search ranks those most viable, validated resources for the searcher's result. The same goes with narratives when they come out from media. And so a lot of the times we'll go, if it's something that's really, at least we feel it's important, or somebody's asked us to look at something, we'll actually put a lot of study into it, and that becomes a white paper. So we put out a lot of white paper, and that's a lot easier to do with AI now, with almost no resources and just voluntary time. But you can find a lot of good information on nationaldefenselab.com and just go to Deep Dive Podcasts. There's awesome podcasts. There's the news and current thoughts, I think, is another section there too, where we have current news. I don't think we posted anything very lately just because of everything going on in Iran. But so yeah, going back to Nemosine, it was figuring out is there a way that we could solve for how would you even go about finding out if the information sources that I'm receiving not necessarily are true or not. That's not the point. The point is, can I find narrative patterns in these news articles, and how do those patterns change over time, right? None of us, I'm willing to bet 100% of everybody watching this, you do not follow up on something you received last Tuesday that you had an emotional response to, that you knew with your entire being was absolutely right or wrong. You probably didn't give a shit 48 hours later. Excuse my language. And so that's huge when you're tracking narratives for understanding what a psyop is. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a psyop, but I look at everything in the world, I look as a psyop, especially when it comes to business, because we're being hired to create psyops, marketing campaigns for our clients, right? So I mean, we're a lot better at it than most people. And that's because of a lot of different skill sets, but we also have technologies to do that too. We use these technologies to help try to figure this out as well. But when you're creating a technology, what does this technology even look like? That was the number one issue. And on the first couple meetings we had on this, I had a general that was, hey, maybe in our lifetime we'll figure this out, and but I'm hell yeah, I'm going to try to figure this out. So I came out on those 5 things, right? And then you're looking at your source of incentive, amplification, emotion, and timing. So if I'm tracking a news story, I want to see those things over a span of time, right? So X or Y, X over Y. There's nothing that exists that I could find out there that did this. And for many reasons, there's probably a reason that doesn't exist, right? And so, okay, let's create this system, but then what types of information are we even looking at? Well, for me, it's really easy. I'm going to apply this to my doctorate, and I'm irregular warfare focused on trying to understand and solve for this problem. And so I'm going to solve this problem, or at least encourage other people to help me solve this problem and maybe get the first version out there. So I started creating this, and what I did is I wanted to apply it to news media first, because news and media is what's informing everyone. It doesn't matter what your bias is on news and media or what side of the aisle that you're on. The news media is being given to you to educate you on topics, right? And they go back to Joe Rogan. You should ask yourself, why am I being told this narrative? And maybe on the flip side of that, on the consideration of the narrative, the information. So Nemosine, had started with that. I want to use news media. And the Nemosine's job is not to tell you that this article is factual or not. It's literally tools to give you to follow that article over time. And then a lot of the times we have AI that's custom built into it that discerns all of the information and the narratives out of the information to give you a real news story, a real informative news story. So it kind of takes the propaganda, at least it shows light on if there's propaganda in a story or if it feels like it's a propaganda story. We're not saying yes or no. We're just giving you the tools to make that discernment yourself because it's subjective to the individual user. Okay. The generations above us, they live and die by the news that they receive from the news sources that they're aligned with, period. I grew up Dan Rather, why would he lie to me? Right?
Why would Tucker Carlson lie? Why would he lie to me?
Right. And objectively looking at everything now, you should literally look at all of this information you're being told, even though it's news and it's probably harmless. Most of it's harmless, right? Why are you telling me this? But treat it like it's an op. And I don't care if it's Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, because I have a hard time naming mainstream news. What's Anderson? Anderson Cooper. Sorry, Anderson. Cooper. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna botch everybody's name. I probably won't see him in the anytime near in the near future anyway. But
he doesn't.
Yeah, so the treat what I've done for myself, and I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but for myself is I look at everything as an op, right? Because why am I being told this? Maybe, right? I've removed emotion out of everything immediately. So now I can have a proper emotional response that I would want to have somebody to have with me if that ever comes up in conversation. And I can pick so many of these situations I had during COVID that were so heated. And the default was I should be empathetic for this person, but my God, you're dumb. You know what I mean? Like that's what I was thinking at the time. But that person didn't have the opportunity to have the knowledge that I had of the situation at the time, right? And then I had the fear of giving the information for being called crazy or other, having it used against me in business or whatever the scenario is, right? And that situationally applies to everybody else that lived through those experiences in their family and workplace and whatever. Okay, so we solve for this pretty easily. And it was those five metrics. So I wanted to create a system that we could inject all information into, starting with news media, and allow the person to create their own custom experience with it. So the Nemosine that I'm set up with is not necessarily going to be the Nemosine that you're set up with because you can add your own sources. Now we add sources that apply to everyone. Those are our default sources. So those are mainstream media. So if you're a Fox News advocate or you're a CNN advocate, I'll use those two as far left and far right. Now you can actually pull all of these news sources in, and then we have BBC, we have Russia, we have a ton of different news sources that exist in there. And what's really cool, and I guess I could share the screen.
Right. Let's go.
So, and this is open to the public. Anybody can go sign up and read to this. The easiest way to get to it is you go to National Defense Lab, Venture Studio Projects, and it's the first project. You just click Nemosine at the top. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, I think there's a public beta link, and you can click to go into the environment. So, but when you log in, this is typically what you're going to see. And we have intelligence coverage. And what's really cool about this system is we create intelligence briefs that you would expect to see if you were in any of the entities, operating government entities, you can generate an intelligence brief off an article that came from CNN, right? So global, these are the things I really created this for me, but tried to make it as easy as possible for the public. And I'm pretty good at user experience, so pat my own back. But right here, I can already see there's 1,012 narratives, which are actually down, and I have 19,000 items that it's found, and off across 20 sources that I'm tracking, and I've created 90 briefs on all that information. Great. What does that mean? So here's a map. I can see where this news is spinning in from or funneling in from. And as the news funnels in from these sources, it changes the color. So it's really kind of cool. So when Iran popped off in the Middle East, we started seeing a lot more sources come from that. Boom. I can visually see that.
Send me the link real quick while you're kind of talking, and I'll throw it in X. That's where most of the viewers are at. I'll throw it on the X thing so that they can jump into it if they want to follow.
I should probably do this too. Yeah. So this is the link. There you go. And when you log in, you can actually create your own daily intelligence digest, and you get to configure this yourself off of the information that you want to see. So what's really cool about it is if I want to receive information off specific topics from my CNN, I can have that all delivered right here. I don't actually have to go through CNN and scroll through their site and try to figure out all this stuff, which is really cool. But we have your intelligence feeds that you can set up, your risk distribution, and this is just kind of showing you what the distribution of narratives looks like: low versus high versus critical, medium high critical. On your dashboard, you have recent briefs. You have a case, which I'll show this. You can actually create your own cases, like you're a intelligence analyst, which is pretty sweet. You can set up watching for specific narratives. I don't have any set up right now. I probably should have set that up. And then basically recent activity of what's going on. So in your sources, we have house sources, which are system sources, and these will show up on everybody's feeds, and you have the opportunity to, I don't want to follow those. So what's really cool is, let's say I want to be in pop culture or music. I could add music feeds in here, and I can start pulling music feeds or sports feeds or sports items or stories from different sources to look for the same types of narratives that I'm being fed at. And that would, apply to ticket sales and, artist intrigue and all the other stuff. From these sources, it starts to generate items in real time, and then it just starts. So what we're doing is we're creating this massive database of news stories that are coming out from these individual news sources. And you wouldn't necessarily have to do news sources in here. So from those sources, we get the items, which are the actual stories. So here's the stories, here's the item. This is a low threshold, so there's really nothing in this. I can see the actual feed item, and I can link to the actual story, which I don't know if you can see that pop up in your screen or not. But so generalized story, and then I can filter these based off of, like, if I only want to look for Trump, I can filter. I can pull from, oh my God, an error there. I can pull from embedded sources, any pending sources. I can pull from specific sources if I want to. And then from those items, those stories, this is where it gets exciting, because now I can actually start to look at narratives. And in that narrative, I can see velocity of that narrative. So Iran, I don't know that we're calling it a war. I don't know. The news is calling it a war. We're fighting. It's a war. I don't know. But Iran pops off. Velocity of a lot of stories start coming out for Iranian war, Israel, the Middle East, etc. And we start to expect to see all of these stories just start flowing in, right? And so that's where you get the velocity of the narratives that are being reported on, right? The stories being reported on. And in those stories, we can now start to identify narratives inside those stories. And once you create and spot those narratives, and you can start to see the drift of those narratives. Those drifts are generally categorized by stable, shifting, if it's being reframed, or completely mutating, which is crazy. So why is that important? If I'm receiving a lot of the same algorithmic videos because I said I want to buy shorts, or I'm looking for newer gym shorts. Now, all of a sudden, I start to see gym short feeds and ads for companies that have shorts. The same goes for news media. I have a conversation with somebody. I was sitting in front of a camera. Who knows what it was from? That camera feeds into who knows what it feeds into. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing on my phone ads for X, or narratives, or news narratives. TikTok's the prime example of this in my own experience. I watch one video that's a little bit longer, and then six or seven videos later, I'll see the second video. And if I watch that video, then it's 4 to 5 videos. I'm seeing another video. And then the next day I'm seeing video, something else. And it's usually in the form of a delivery of an ad that's going to be placed. So same holds true with news narrative too.
You got a question? Can this be used on your cell phone, or is this only desktop?
No, yeah, it's 100% mobile friendly. Yeah.
Mobile friendly. All right,
So,
cool.
yeah, me being the UX guy, I use my phone more than I should, but I put a lot of focus on making it mobile friendly. So here's a brief opportunities too. So in the narratives, now I can create. I might not understand what that means, right? In the context of information warfare, or in the context of all of the music artists that I'm following. And maybe, I don't understand what this article about Billie Eilish means, or this narrative that's been pulled up on it. And it's a mutating narrative. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. Well, you can actually create a daily intelligence briefing out of that, which is pretty cool. And just like an intelligence brief report that would go up, chain of command for whatever the purpose is, I break that down by watch lists, risks, drivers, and signals. So I can see what are the signals in this article, what are the drivers of the signals, what are the potential risks here, and how does that relate? And then I can see what should I look out for next. And then we have you can actually generate the reading of the article. But this is a summary of what happened today of the articles that I'm following, and what I should really be looking out for. Maybe not necessarily I'm actually looking out for these, but just aware, right? And I in my own experience, if I would have had this during COVID, holy crap, I would have been able to push through COVID even better than I already did.
Right.
But I could have also helped relate this information in a way that wasn't objective in the context of emotional control. Somebody absolutely on the floor next to me crying about the election, or what I mean. I could have had resources to give this person that would have been not subjective to the resource that it came from.
Right.
So it would have been really cool.
This is such an important tool because, and again, a lot of people, once you have, especially if you use this for a little while, I mean, you just kind of get the gist of how things are framed, and you see the language that's used, you'll start to see it all the time. Right.
Yeah.
Like when I see somebody post something, that's just the way they frame it and the way they phrase the statement. I already know if they're lying or not, right? You wouldn't have had to phrase that statement that way if you were telling the truth.
See, and this removes that from the source to the reader.
Right.
So I don't have to, and then it shines a light on that statement as a narrative. And that's the cool thing about it. That's the baseline of the maybe. looking down at it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's super important, man. I like that a lot.
I could not find a single application. Like I get to go to a lot of cool conferences and stuff that you would expect in through National Defense Lab, which is really, really neat. And you get to see technology, and you get to see all the really cool stuff that's being created by our awesome defense tech companies out there. There's nothing like this that existed. I couldn't find a single application that would exist, because what I was hoping to find was, oh, hey, we can solve for that here. Go use this X company or whatever. So this is a case pack. So if I'm an actual analyst, or I want to approach this like an analyst, or just a Joe Blow, if I'm tracking musical, whatever, I can actually create a case and follow that specific case in relation. Like if I'm tracking Michael Jordan on sports, for example, I can create a case for Michael Jordan. And I can go to that case and I can see all the news tracking and narratives that are coming from Michael Jordan across the sources that I added. And I can generate narratives out of those sources of those items, which are the stories. And I can see the source, the date. I can go do all my research that I want to do or not do.
I need to start using this more. You sent it to me. You sent it to me a while back, and I looked into it, and then I got overwhelmed because it's a big program. It's got a lot of oomph behind it.
There's so much R&D that went into it on the psychological the formulas that you would have to create, the mathematical formulas that you'd have to create on the psychology side to even get to how would you solve for these issues, right? And what's crazy is I did this pretty much myself over a long period of time, and it's cool because NDL, I get to run with it, and it's sort of a assignment versus assigning it to other teams or team members. Now I want to do this. I want to roll this up. I did that with Athena too, where I was like, no, I'm the most qualified on the team to even do it. But this one was pretty close. It still is pretty close to her. So now when we release it to the public a couple weeks ago, we've talked to a couple TV shows and different entities already demoing it, and we got the same exact response that you just gave me off one of them. So it's an interesting. We're seeing really positive responses on the software so far. Now this obviously was generated for everyone.
I think maybe some quick So have you ever used unusual? I don't mean to change the subject, but have you ever used unusual wells for trading stuff?
I haven't. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, I don't use it.
So that unusual wells is you can go so in depth with the whole system that he made, and it's it can be as technical as you want it to be, or it can be pretty simple if you want it to be pretty simple. So they had to have people make all these different videos to kind of show you all right, this is how you can use it to do this, or this is how you can, you really want to. Yeah. So you might have to do a few little videos of use cases and how this is how you can jump into this and do this, because like I said, I looked at it and it's robust, and sometimes when you have a robust system, sometimes people they're going to look at it and be like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, and they're just going to get discouraged and walk away from it before they even though it's not actually that crazy, because I was able to play around with it and have some fun too, and then life just happens and you get busy, but it is something I do. It's one of those things that you could that's something you could check every morning. You could set you could set certain little things up. You could do, and you could use that every day to kind of to even out the noise, or just quiet some of the noise, so that you can just have a better grasp of all right, this is what this cool. Narrative is pushing. Yeah. And
you have the freedom to freedom to set it up in the way that you want to, subjectively to you and your own sources. And you can add your own sources, but you can also, let's say you receive a document, somebody sends you quiet weapons or any of the publications we just talked about, or other news stories or whatever. Right. I actually allow you to upload this into the system and look for narratives Like it's pretty cool. You can actually generate an intelligence brief, like an analyst brief off of something that you received. Somebody sent you this document as a fact of whatever their argument was that they threw in ChatGPT, and they're trying to deliver it to you as their own words, right? You can take that and upload it into the system, and it'll do the exact same thing. And then for fun, as I started to add more sources to it, it's kind of neat to see kind of what narratives that I might not be tracking that exist in the system, and to help find, oh shoot, I actually want to follow,
right.
Trump threatens agent airports starting Monday. What is that? And it's kind of neat. And from an investigative journalist standpoint, this was
right.
I had a journalist I talked to, and they're like, geez, is this flipping on? Can I add my own? Yeah, you can add your own sources in there. So we did create a FAQ, which actually runs you through how to use everything. But on the use case, we're already working on the use case videos as users suggested.
Hell yeah.
And when you create your own digest, they're all funnel in here too. And they'll sort.
Max.
Max,
did you get that link? Max, you got that? I'll put it on the screen for you. Someone's asking for the link. That's in the chat in YouTube, and it's in the chat on X as well, Max. And it's on the screen right now.
And something I'll push out over the next couple of days is I have my own AI, which is a whole nother podcast called Lizzie.
Look at you. You're such a nerd.
Lizzie is kind of like my Jarvis, Tony Stark Jarvis. And
all right, so I need you to make me one of those, but you're gonna have to name it something else.
Oh, it's so easy to do it yourself now, but mine's really smart. I'll put Lizzie in here too. Lizzie's literally behind me in my glass, like around me at all times. But I'll put Lizzie in here, and Lizzie's like the most intuitive helper. You don't even know it's AI. Like you can literally have a conversation on a web conference with Lizzie and with Lizzie's persona and everything. But I'll put that in here too.
You're gonna have to teach me some of this stuff.
Yeah, I get that a lot. So so this is Nemosine, and it's a pretty exciting system because this is literally just like version 1 of it, and the more people that get access to it, the more feedback we get. And I got a lot of scholars.
I think we're gonna have to do a whole nother show just to go through Nemosine. I think we're just gonna have to do that later, like at some point.
I'm happy to come back and do something else. But
because I think there's a way to go through that and like show people like just the power of how and how it can just like open people's eyes to what's really going on.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny to when you the different types of people and the different backgrounds that get added to it. You even have the other side of the fence. But, oh my God, you could use this as a weapon, right? Yeah, you could, but that's not like literally. That is not my sense would be if I go back to Silent Weapons for Quiet War scenario, and I'm executing one of these scenarios on systematically controlling my cattle to go to this corral, right? There's an exact opposite, bipolar opposite system that exists from Nemosine that is controlling the narrative because it knows the population and it can pretty accurately predict what the response is going to be to that information. Apply that to advertising and marketing. It's the same exact. It was not the exact same system, but it's very similar. So, anybody who wants to go sign up, I recommend go play with it. There's ways for you to contact us internally for features or bugs or whatever. It's in beta, so you can expect to see errors here or there.
Yeah.
Like the one I even saw pop up here was just an ingestion error that it was trying to load in data while we were looking at the screen, and it couldn't do it fast enough. So, but it's free to use. It's a really cool system, and I look forward to continuing to contribute to it.
We got a question from Amanda. Are all the results news-based, or does it pull from social media, academia? So you can add any source, right? I believe, to answer that question.
You can add whatever source you want to. Are we going to add social media feeds into this? No. But you could.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back.
And that's a great question, Amanda, too. Because if you're trying to discern information receiving online systematically, this potentially could help you do that.
Nice.
So I mean, if you go back to the cognitive warfare side, right? The cognitive warfare starts on a population that is ignorant, not purposefully ignorant, but we've been systematically programmed since day one to love the things we love, to hate the things we hate, to despise. I mean, look how much the world's changed just in your lifespan. And maybe the things that you were taught to hate, like me, it was Russia, Soviet Union,
right.
Rocky IV.
Right.
And then growing up and learning that, you know what? Russia's Russia. I mean, it's not the Soviet Union anymore, right? I never ever had to fear these people. That was ridiculous. That was fed to me. The way that we'll get through society, and this is a problem statement on the controlling side of this too, is by informing yourselves and realigning the reception of the news and narratives that you receive across the spectrum of media. It's not necessarily just news. It's not necessarily sports, whatever. You can learn to step outside of those shoes, that programming, and look down on it. And my analogy is, you can wake up to the Matrix, right? Matrix is subjective to a lot of the stuff that we've been programmed to believe in, your cultural beliefs and religious, whatever it is. You can step actually outside of that and operate. And when you do that, you find out that this person you're combating, you have a lot more in common that you thought you did before, because now you're operating on this other level that we as a society don't necessarily know what that is to operate on, or how it feels to operate on this level. And it's really cool. Like when you get, and this is my explanation of being in Washington and around Washington and the various things that you and I have some similar context on. When you're around those narratives sort of just go away, because you're working for the same mission protocol. And if you can operate on here on just the mission of being a good person and having empathy for other people and loving people unconditionally, that is the result. Now, can we get there as a society? I don't know, because it's truly David and Goliath. But to your point now, I think, if you just keep fighting, different context, you just keep fighting, you can eventually get there, right? And that's the point. The cognitive warfare side of it is just to see and realize that it is happening to you on many, many different levels, and identifying it, as you said earlier. So
I think getting people just to a point where you're like, when you see something, you have to, if there's even a tingling of spider sense that maybe that's not true, you have to go research. You have to go look into it a little bit more. And I know that's like, that might be a little counterproductive to your timetable of that day, but you can't just believe everything you see. Like, and I see stuff on X and sometimes it's posted from people that I generally trust, right? Like sometimes sources that I usually agree with even. Like sometimes I agree with these people, and they'll post something. I'm like,
But that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean you have to hate the person. You know what I mean? Like,
no, right.
Screw that guy.
Right. No, but sometimes I'm just like, that one seems a little bit off. And then I'm like, oh, you're a little bit off here. Again, it doesn't mean I hate you. I'm not going to stop following you because of this, but you're a little bit wrong on this one. But having that mentality, and I've been wrong before, right? And then sometimes I am going to frame things in a certain way because I'm trying to get this response to wake people up. Like, hey, I did a post. It's probably been a couple weeks now, but I went through the most dangerous course of action from my view of what a black-pilled view of if this push to divide the right is successful, in what would happen if we lose the 2026 elections pretty emphatically, and then Trump is, the Trump administration is hamstrung through the rest of his administration. Nothing else gets done. Right. And it's really bad, and all these people are even black-pilled even more. And then Democrats get a super majority going into 2028, and all these really bad things that could happen so the worst case scenario, moving forward, right? And I did this post on purpose this way, and I framed it that way on purpose. And some people are like, you can't be blackpilled, bro. I'm like, listen, I did this on purpose to like, this is the most dangerous. I obviously don't think this is actually going to happen, but I want to wake some of you people up and like, hey, we have to acknowledge like this is a possibility if we don't go vote. And if you listen to these idiots that are telling you to vote Democrat, like, why would you? That's not like, again, that's not the answer is never to just like abandon your side and go vote for the other side. Right. And that would be silly for me to say, as if I was a Democrat, to say like, hey, Democrats, stop voting for Democrats and go vote for Republicans. Right. Like, that's just a silly thing to say for one side to say to the other. Right. Like, that's just silly.
At least you can subjectively look at it differently and not just an emotional response. Right. And that's the goal. The goal should be for everyone. And I will I will put this out there. I usually use myself as my point of clarity. Everyone should question everything they're told. Period. You should. Why am I being told this? Maybe. And if it drives the emotional response to want to go try to research it and try to understand a little bit better because it's important to the person that's telling it, maybe it's your brother, your mom, whatever, then that's the subjective scenario. But raw data creates way more narratives than clarity. And we have the unfortunate societal programming to just take a news headline and run with it, and that's the biblical fact, right? More information is not equal truth, right? It just creates more confusion, and the more confused your populace is, you get the emotional responses that you see on social media.
Yep.
Period. That's it.
Yep.
Algorithms decide visibility. This is something that we have kind of written on the Nemosine Doctorate. Algorithms decide visibility. Visibility drives belief. Repetition creates perceived truth, and emotion accelerates the spread of it. And if you just understand those simple things, then you can take control back for yourself. And that's where it all starts. It has to start internally. You can have empathy. You can have a level of understanding that doesn't have an emotional tie to whatever the other person, the keyboard warrior on the other end, is screaming at you, typing, right?
Yep.
And then, by the way, this just so happens to be how you can spot bots immediately online.
Yep.
The bot comments.
I see them all the time. I get them every day. I get flooded with them every day now. Like I said, especially once one of my posts gets to a certain level, like a threshold, then they just they flood in. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, if you can't see the system, that's the problem. And and so Nemosine is not the one solution solves all. It's a step in the right direction to help people take control of something that's just really minuscule, like news media. And you can use it for other sources. I won't tell you there's limits to it, because there's not. You can truly make it your own system that you want to. So I mean, AI makes this so much easier for us too, because now we have, again, that's subjective off the algorithm you're using, or the system you're using and what's being fed into it too. But you can learn to utilize to really help you in your research and your analysis of data. But even that data, you have to do the same tactics that you do. Why is it telling me this? Maybe. Right. So I don't know. Cognitive warfare is this new train we've all found ourselves in. It's existed our entire lifetime, but it's been really accelerated through our internet and our access to social media.
Well, the thing is, so everyone thought that, so it was a double-edged sword. Elon buying X was a great thing for the world, right? Because it gave you a platform where freedom of speech within relative bounds, right? But it's more free than a lot of the other platforms in any sense, right? There's not one side oppressing the other, and we'll just kind of leave it at that way.
I think the coolest thing he did after buying X Islani introduced Grok, and he injected Grok in a new form of AI being used completely outside of chatbot, right? Unless you're a developer, you use AI differently also. But he added Grok to where the public could now have a tool set to get help understanding, and that was that's like the first thing I've seen anybody add to anything that was like, I'm actually going to look into this a little bit. But then you still have to discern, is Grok correct?
You do.
Right?
And you still have to, so you still have to be careful with Grok, because Grok only pulls from what it can search, right? So it doesn't know everything, and it's only going to, and it only pulls from, so like if I ask Grok, and I'm like take my account and give me the gist of what my account's about, it's only going to take the last like 20 posts that I've done. It's not going to go through 1,000 of my posts and give me a real good aggregate of it. It's only going to take like the last 10 or so, and it's only going to make a judgment just based off of that. So it's the same. It's limited in what it can do. Be careful with it. Yeah. But it's just like anything else with AI. You use them as a tool, and so like I use AI to research a lot of things, and I use AI. AI has allowed me to up my article game, because I can do deep research and I can research a lot of things, and I can set my research tables on primary sources, and what would normally take me days to research now only takes me an hour, right? Or minutes sometimes, depending on what I'm researching. And so then that cuts, now I have all this an executive summary that it gives me a research based on these sources that I asked for, all kind of out. And then I can just write straight from that, instead of going through and now having to like find all these sources and then like go through each thing. It's just, so it does speed things up, but you still have to use it correctly.
You have discernment on it for sure. And that's the volume of information is just going to continue to increase as the primary networks still exist and then new ones pop up. And the reliability of all that information is still going to decrease with the massive amounts, because you can't process all that as a human. Right. And we're dumb humans, so we're not just going to leave it most likely, because we have our addictions or dopamine addictions to it. But that gap in the understanding of the massive amounts of information, that's where the manipulation lies, and it's closing that gap. So if you can just move yourself into a position where like, I don't need to understand everything that's going on, I just need to be not easily influenced by it. And then you're back to being what I believe is a better human, right? And you can find things to relate upon. And you've seen this call by many different people in the news media. You should have empathy for other people. You absolutely should. But this is a narrative that is actually genuine and not just speaking notes written on a freaking teleprompter, right? If you can find common ground based off of a lessened, brainwashed individual or situation, you would be surprised at how great I believe the world could be. So I don't know. That's kind of, that was the whole purpose of wanting to solve for this in the first place. And and I can't wait to make more, and we'll make more enhancements on it. I have a whole development roadmap for it, which is pretty cool. But it's been fun. It's been a lot of, do these things at nighttime, like when I'm doing my my educational schoolwork, which is just insane. But I absolutely love it. And, if I could leave any, I've made some really, really cool applications on, civil defense side of the fence. And then just general applications for regular companies in general, spanning many different industries. I think Nemosine and Athena are probably the two coolest ones that, when I check out of this life someday, I go, I gave that to the world, and maybe it had a bigger impact than the plumbing website we did, 3 weeks ago. So I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, no, I mean, it's a great one. And it's, I think it's going to help a lot of people kind of, again, quiet down the noise and just cut down the nonsense. And that's the goal here. And to kind of go back to the point of like X, and how the free speech was a double-edged sword, is you have, so you had the distrust in the mainstream media, right? You have the CNN all the way to the left. You have Fox too far to the right. Like, how do you trust anything any of these people are saying? Everything's slanted one way or the other. Where do you have to try to land somewhere in the middle to kind of get the truth. So then X comes and everyone thinks that everything's going to be great. The MAGA big tent gets built. Everybody's kind of, hunky dory. Everything's good. Trump wins. Things are going okay, right? Like the first 100 days actually seem all right. And then Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. And then you see the right kind of just fall apart from a standpoint of not really fall apart in realistic terms, but from a social media standpoint, you've seen this op being pushed. And I don't know that it was necessarily.
I would say plural, but yeah, ops.
Ops. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And I think they're reactionary ops. I don't think that I'm a firm believer in facts, and the facts are that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. He was indoctrinated by leftist media talking points, and which has been happening. Sorry, my toddler she gets me sick at least 2 to 3 times a month. So I'm cutting through another sinus infection. So we're getting that out now. But so just how the left has been, and this is what I've been posting about this. I've been talking about this for a long time, and this is what one of the things that's really been frustrating me with this whole what I call the halal right, the Podcastistan kind of push to create division on the right. And this is what I view as a leftist push to divide the right, so that they can regain power again. Because what was most threatening to the left and what was most threatening to the globalists, what was most threatening to the multipolarity push. And I don't know if you've seen the whole Duginist kind of push that's been coming from Dugin, the red, green, brown alliance. So the Marxist, the Islamist, and the kind of
I can track it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
most of this delivery mechanism for freaking influence. Now you can actually track it.
Yeah. No. So what all this is coming is because the right wing MAGA alliance is the biggest threat to them, and so that this whether coordinated between them directly or just reactionary and understanding that dissolving this MAGA right wing alliance is in their best interest, whichever way that has happened. That's what we're seeing right now. And instead of fighting the left, instead of increasing our majority and winning and passing the SAVE Act and passing all the stuff we need to do and doing all the things and actually highlighting the victories, the good things that are happening, right? We're having to fight these psychos and these people that are just pushing all this nonsense. Like Candace Owens, we're watching her just make up stuff about Egyptian planes and maroon shirts and so on and so forth. Just all kinds of stuff. And we're watching, right? And so we're just watching all this, and now we're having to combat all of this.
Yeah, mutating
because and people and I get the whole I agree with the starve the grift type of mentality from a standpoint. Like, I don't go post directly on Candace Owens' her things. I don't quote post her either. I screenshot and then I'll say something about what she's doing to highlight what she's doing so that maybe people that don't know can see, and it doesn't monetize her and it doesn't help spread her. You can't easily click to go to her, but you still have to call it out. We have to call it out. She has 7 million followers. She's not going away because a few of us ignore her, right? Same thing with some of these, a lot of these other big accounts. They're not going away just because we put our heads in the sand. These are problems that we have to deal with, and we have to meet them head on and with the truth. And we have to be adamant about what the truth actually is and show everybody and show the people that they're actually looking for the truth. Most people are genuinely looking for the truth. They just don't know any better. Right. And so we have to do better from our standpoint of showing people what the truth is. And that's kind of the fight that we're in now. And that's kind of where I almost took a job going back on post and working again and teaching in the med course there, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to jump into this. I don't like the whole vet bro culture. Like, I don't want to get on here and talk about like how cool SF dudes are, because like we're cool, man. Like I don't think we need to talk about how cool we are. You know, like there's plenty of cool videos of us. Like I think that's all said and done. But I think getting on and like talking about this kind of stuff and like talking about the narratives that are being pushed, talking about the propaganda, talking about the reality of like how the world works and the strategic outlook of the world, and like how geopolitics actually works. You know, a lot of people talk about geopolitics, but they don't actually understand geopolitics. So I think throwing that view out is very important. Yeah. So that's kind of, you know, giving these views, I think are what people need. And so
I had somebody actually say that, yeah, you should actually think about teaching this course in at a specific university in DC, and I don't. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
I'm not expert enough. Let me get my own doctorate done first. But yeah, you're right though. Like if you don't control the input, man, you're never going to control the conclusions from it. And I don't know if there's an answer to it, and not to use a matrix scenario again, but like every set of information that comes through your door, you have an opportunity to take one of those pills, and just make sure that they're your pills.
Right.
You can alleviate the choice altogether if it's your pill, or decide I don't actually have to take the pill at all. What would happen if the cattle in the corral just one day woke up to it all?
Yep.
The cattle would just disappear. The corral would still be there. It just disappear. There would be no reason for the corral anymore. Right. Yep. So I don't know. I don't know how to end from there, but like it's you being able to see and just, why am I being told this?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe.
Yeah.
That has changed my own personal world on everything and dealing with everyone, for my own self. And,
I try to give people like from a geopolitical standpoint, like we don't know what we don't know. So let's talk about just real quick, because, you know, I don't know how much time you have, but just like the Iran conflict is a big thing, right? People don't like gas prices going up. They like to blame whatever, you know, they don't like it, so on and so forth.
They love to repeat narratives that they've been told.
Right, exactly. So, but they don't know they don't know how strategic Iran is to the Middle East or to the global shipping
why are
trade.
We using our own oil, and we have refineries here. Well, you don't.
Yeah,
they don't
understand. They don't understand choke points. You know, they don't understand choke points, global choke points around the world. Most of them had never heard of the Strait of Hormuz until a few weeks ago. Most of them still have never heard of the Strait of Malacca. Most of them don't know, you know, what the Suez Canal, where the Suez Canal even is. Like they don't know any of these key choke points. They don't know how pivotal they are to global trade. They don't know that, you know, 50% of China's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and that 30% of the China's liquid natural gas goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and that, you know, controlling that and being able to hold a leash on China and saying, hey, guess what? We can actually stop 50% of your oil and 30% of your natural gas on the drop of a dime if we wanted to. How important that is, right? They don't look at these systems from a systems of systems perspective, from a strategic level perspective, and so then they don't understand why anything is happening the way it's actually happening. So then any move that Trump makes doesn't actually make sense to them, because they're not looking at it from a perspective that would allow it to make sense to them. To them, well, they said they destroyed all of the nuclear capabilities back in November. Okay, well, guess what? So we have this thing called the internet, and then we have these things called clouds, right? You can back up all of your data to an outside source that isn't necessarily going to be destroyed by these bombs, right? So even if all the physical components of your testing site are destroyed, from November till February is probably enough time for, if you have all of your data backed up, for you to get the equipment you needed, because you have all the specs, right? They had it all backed up. They had everything needed. They know exactly the tools they need. They know everything they need, right? 4 months, that's plenty of time to get everything reordered from Russia, China, or any of the other nations that are going to help them, and then reestablish on a new site, bring in back all that data, get other scientists, because they're getting help from China or Russia or any of the other nations, North Korea. And now you can reestablish this program, and it's not going to take you 12 years, right? It's not going to like, especially with AI, with the advances in technology, it's not going to take you that long. So people just live in this bubble of like expecting the world to be either how it was 20 years ago, or they fail to just realize that like things can progress even beyond what we actually thought their capabilities may have been. And maybe the intelligence that we had was wrong as well. Maybe when Trump thought that we destroyed all of their nuclear capabilities, maybe we were wrong. Maybe our intelligence thought that we did, and it wasn't accurate intelligence, because intelligence is right. They had backup sites, because intelligence, and another thing, people act like intelligence is just this, like, there's like, you just walk into a room and there's like this golden nugget and you're like, that's intelligence, and you grab it and you're like, no, I know. Like, intelligence is information that has been analyzed and collated and then put and it feeds into the needs of
chain in the IC.
Yeah, chain and whatever information system that you're looking at. So it requires someone going through that information and putting it into a system that makes sense to go along with that. So there's just people not knowing what they don't even know. And so that's kind of the point here, is like, I try to like educate people on, hey, things that are happening in Iran, like the ceasefires. Like, if I was in charge, what would I do? I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily negotiate with terrorists, because you can't trust them. But at the same time, maybe we did need to reset target decks. Maybe we did need to refit, some of our armaments. Maybe we did need to wait for logistical resupplies to happen, because we are operating on parts of the world that we don't normally operate in. Maybe we're waiting for certain pieces to move to certain other areas, Maybe we're waiting for the IRGC and for certain other members to feel like they have a little breathing room and for them to move around so that we can get some more targets. Like all these different things that could be happening that are also objectives of this ceasefire, other than just like, hey, we're having a ceasefire. So getting people to kind of think in that mindset too, like critically think about this for a second. Like, what other objectives could be possible from these moves that Trump is doing? And they're not all Trump's ideas, right? Like, Trump's going to act like they're all his ideas because it's Trump, right? And he's going to be like, he was like, this is my idea. It was the greatest idea that has ever been an idea. And I had this idea and it's great, right? It's Trump, dude. Just get over it. Like, all these people freaking out about all these tweets he does. I'm like, Trump has been saying crazy shit on social media for 20 years, and y'all are still freaking out about it.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, because it's like, guys, like, he's going to say crazy stuff, and then he's going to do some things that aren't actually that crazy.
Hoppy says whatever he wants to say. And,
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know. So just kind of getting people to that thing is like, we don't know the intelligence, man. We don't know. We also don't know if China was about to make a move on Taiwan. Right. Part of us going into Iran could have factored, them moving on Taiwan could have had been a factor of that. Like, hey, we're gonna hit Iran because it's right for these certain reasons here, but also so that we can take the Strait of Hormuz, so that we can put a leash on China, because they're not going to attack Taiwan when we can stop 50% of their oil and 30% of their natural gas.
Right.
So it's like there's strategies going on here.
The strategies and the diplomacy and the statecraft side of the fence, which is a whole nother world from what traditional civilians even know about. And, all of that, it has just an entire spider web of effects across a spectrum of governments and civilizations around the world. And it's crazy. It's like, again, you wouldn't know to even think about these things and what their effects might be. And that just falls into another scenario, though. It's like you don't have to understand everything. You just have to not be as easily influenced by it, right?
Right.
So I don't know, man.
I tell these people, like, don't freak out, man. Just like have a little bit of faith. This isn't a forever war. It's only been a month and a half, right? Like, if we get to 17 years, I'll admit I'm wrong. You know,
attention is a currency, right? Algorithms, they don't optimize for truth. They optimize for engagement or sales, aka engagement. Repetition feels like proof over and over again. Oh man, and then you accidentally repeat it. You know, so, emotion is a delivery mechanism for influence. And if you don't control your input, you don't control your conclusion. Excuse me. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's such a gift to be alive.
It is, man. It is. Hey, it is, and it's. I think it's fun to talk about this, you know, like with people who kind of understand, and because there's a lot, like I'll be talking, you know, I'll be talking to my brother-in-law, and he'll be like, "What?" Or I'll be talking to him about like some stuff that happened in Afghanistan or stuff that happened in Iraq, and he'll be like, "Dude, you got to talk to people about this." And I'll be like, "What?" And he'll be like, "You gotta tell people that like that's how it actually was." I'm like, "What do you mean, dude?" And he's like, "No one knows this stuff." He's like, "Normal people don't know this stuff." I'm like, "Oh, well, I mean, I guess I'll tell people, you know, like it's awesome. You just don't, we just don't think about it like the, you know, the norm, like the, I mean, it is one of those things. Is like only 1% of the U.S. population serves in the military, and then you know, not much more percentage actually even works with the military. So it's a very small percentage of the U.S. population that has any actual firsthand knowledge of what the military does, of the processes of, you know, of the processes of warfare, of the processes of intelligence, of the processes of all the things, right? Government.
You wouldn't survive the first 30 minutes of acronyms, like,
dude. Oh yeah, I get people all the time, like, especially if I have someone like I had a Marine on the other day, and then one of the comments was like, "Will you stop using acronyms? We don't understand them." And I was like, "Oh crap, yeah, I forgot about that." Like, you don't
they're called anacronyms.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That was like the biggest eye opener for me. I think let's go get some yummies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You literally have to like, yeah. I mean, you remember, right, when the first day at Camp McCall when y'all were there, and I don't know, probably like that first brief you got, you were like, "What are they talking about?"
Oh, I mean, I've been around it a bit more than that, but yeah.
Maybe some of the other guys, were like, "What is going on right now?"
Yeah.
It's
dude. Awesome.
Well, get a little late, but what do you think? You got anything else? You talked about the Athena. You want to talk anything about Athena real quick, or what do you?
No, you mean if you want to learn about Athena, you can just go to National Defense Lab and the project studio, Venture Projects, and you can read about it. But it's just an AI platform that helps elected officials with their voting, understanding what it is that they're voting on, and then provides transparency for the public on that as well. But just think of ChatGPT, but for the bills passing through the system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, dude, love all the work you're doing. Keep it up. It's awesome stuff. Love picking your brain on everything, and I appreciate you coming on tonight and shooting the shit with me for a few hours, you know, and talking about all this stuff. And
yeah, thanks for the invite. Sorry it took so long.
Yeah. No, dude, and we'll get on again, and I definitely want to go through some more you know, deep dive on Nemosine and go through it, and especially, you know, maybe we go in and actually like jump into a few narratives, and
we can actually
show some people. Go in and see and show some people like the power of it and how they can use it and all that kind of stuff, because I think that's an awesome platform to just again cut through some of the noise, let people understand like what you're seeing, not everything you're seeing is real. Not everything you're seeing is true. And you have to understand. And this is another thing too, is like, once you realize it's not only just the information, it's also the actors. It's like, I can tell not only from the information, but I can tell from who posted, like, immediately. Like, when they post something, I'm like, that's bullshit. Guarantee you that's bullshit. And I'll go look it up and I'll be like, I knew it. I knew it was bullshit. I knew they lied. I knew they lied about everything. Like, the other day, Max Blumenthal reposted a thing by who was it? It was Steve Horton. Have you heard of that dude?
Nah.
So Steve Horton and Max Blumenthal, they're both, like, Max Blumenthal's he's like a far left crazy whatever. He has the whole site thing, but Steve Horton first reposted this, and it was from a jihadi site first, and they said that these Jews came into the West Bank and just beat up these Palestinians for no reason in their shop. And so Steve Horton reposted it, and then Max Blumenthal reposted it. It was like, this is Zionists doing this, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay. So I went and looked into it a little bit more, and it was like Palestinian on Palestinian violence. It was just like dudes just robbing a store, just like if you went to Detroit and a dude from Detroit robbed another dude from Detroit. There's no other, like, just dudes robbing each other. Nothing more than just petty theft was all it was. And then these national dudes framed it this certain way and pushed it this way. And so then I called it out and pushed it out, and it's like, this is what they do. They frame it this way because they just assume that most of you aren't even going to look into it and see what's going on. And sure enough, that's what happens.
Dude, National Defense Lab deep dive episode 95.
95?
It's the most recent episode. Talks about cognitive warfare, and it's kind of summarizes that exact same, very similar scenario. And the other thing too is for anybody listening, if you really truly want to understand what a psyop even is, or what it could be, or how it's used in the public, or you want to be able to identify it. My buddies over at Ironclad and made this 6 episode podcast called Psyop, narrated by Sean Ryan. And it is I feel like I created this myself, because I was like, man, if we just had a way to explain what a psyop is and how it's used in the general public. And then they released this episode a couple weeks later, and I was in DC and was on the phone with them, and I was just like, dude, this is amazing. That is
except for Sean Ryan's now captured too, which is sad for all of us. Won't.
But from a educational standpoint of training yourself on what it actually is, it's free to download right now. It's probably I personally think it's the best resource I've seen on, other than just if you go through an educational system to understand what it is in the use of warfare context. For the public, it's probably the best mechanism, and it is an incredibly enjoyable series, and the Ironclad killed it. On their research. And then another great one is Big Media, Modern Warfare 2.0, which is something that I contributed to a couple of years ago on HBO Max. You can watch the streaming episodes, and that goes through the different types of modern warfare that's used. And there's more episodes coming, I believe, that have to do more specifically with cognitive side of warfare too, that other producers are making, across the board. So the irregular warfare is sort of the hot topic right now, just like space defense was 2 years ago. At DARPA. But it's a cool way to just sort of get yourself up into current speed of identifying what a psyop is. And it's funny, like once your eyes are open to it, like what you were saying earlier, you see it everywhere, like especially in advertising marketing. You're like, that's bullshit, dude. That ain't real. Yeah, you can utilize it in your own professional careers just so much better. And you can actually spot different.
You can spot it in an email. You'll see an email from somebody and you'll be like, they just fucking lied. They just lied in that email to me right now. I don't even know why they did that. You know, like, why you gotta lie like that, dude? No, it's. I mean,
thank you so much. This was a great experience, and I appreciate it. And sorry it took so long, but
yeah. Hey, no, we'll obviously keep in touch, and we'll get on and go through and talk some more about Nemosine and how it can be used and utilized. But yeah, man, great time, awesome. And we'll talk soon, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
everybody. Again, thank you all for coming on. Have a great night, and protect your mind, guys, because it's getting attacked every night. Have a good one.